Welcome back to the fourth episode of Social Media Leader. I'm your host, Samantha Harris. And in today's episode, we're going to be diving into why your personal relationship with social media is affecting your business. Before we get into this episode, I want to give a brief overview of who I am, what I do, and what this podcast is all about, especially if you're new here. So if you don't know me or know what I do, I've been running my own online business for the last 4+ years. I help online businesses set up and execute proper sales systems. I primarily work with online coaches, course creators, service providers, consultants, and you'll hear me chat more about that as the podcast episodes go on. And I can never remember that little intro part, so I'm always reading it off the notes off my phone. So if you're watching the video version, that's what I keep looking over to. But basically, what you can expect to hear about on this podcast is general online business talk, entrepreneur experiences, sales talks and trainings, and kind of anything else that I find that would be of interest to you all listening. This is a business podcast, so I do share quite a bit of like myself personally. If you listen to episode 3, the last episode, I chatted about how I started my online business and how me getting diagnosed with cancer led to me being able to work for myself full time. So if you want to go listen to that, definitely check it out. But for the most part, this is a business podcast. So this is a great place to be if you are an online business owner. Now, getting into today's episode, I want to chat about how your personal relationship with social media is affecting your business. And this is coming from somebody who did not believe that or really understand it. I won't say that I didn't believe it, but I definitely did not understand this for the longest time. I would hear things from business mentors and peers around me saying that you shouldn't just scroll social media, you shouldn't be consuming, you should be putting out more content than you're consuming. And just in general, you should try and spend most of your time offline. You shouldn't be so involved in the space. You should outsource as much as you can in that interaction. And for someone who I didn't really have any issues with social media, I had tons of self confidence. I was very reassured in who I was. I didn't feel like social media ever took a toll on me. And I definitely took that for granted. Now, as I'm older and I'm 4+ years into running an online business, I understand what these people were saying. And so now I feel like I can finally speak on it because I feel like I didn't have a lot of empathy for people who were, I don't know, maybe like triggered or overwhelmed. I think overwhelmed is really the word for it, but people who were really overwhelmed by spending a lot of time on social media. And it comes down to like not even just other people's opinions or comparison, but I think part of it is like overindulging in information and overindulging in consumption of knowledge. Now I have finally experienced that within the last couple years. Sometimes I just don't even know what my thoughts are anymore. I'm hearing so many other people's thoughts. I feel like I don't have time to just like sit with myself and be quiet. I'm always having personal development shoved in my face or some new business development strategy shoved in my face, or seeing what someone else is doing and then thinking of all these ideas of what I would like to do with my business that's maybe similar to what they're doing. And it's just too much. There's just too much going on. And maybe you can relate to that feeling. On the other hand, aside from just a lot of information, if you're dealing with worrying about other people's opinions, constantly checking who's viewing your stories, looking at what other people are doing and comparing your success to theirs, that is a whole other piece of this that could be really affecting you and the growth of your online business. And like I said, this is coming from somebody who did not struggle with that for a while. I didn't understand it. I was consuming so much for a long time. And pretty much where that big shift happened is my confidence was struck to the core. I went through something in my personal life that totally rocked me as a person, and it made me question my self-worth. It made me lose a lot of my confidence for a really long time, and that's something that I still feel like I'm building back up. I became really afraid to put myself out there. And maybe you're feeling that. And I feel really lucky that I wasn't experiencing those things when I started my online business, because I don't know if I'd be as successful as I am now. So I have so much empathy for people who experience that while they're building an online business, because it's like you're fighting two battles. You're fighting the battle of starting a business and making it successful, but then you're also fighting the battle of yourself in your mind and insecurities and so many things to go along with that. I do have a few tips on how to actually work through those, but I want to share my experience and something that's been really helpful for me. Firstly, building up my confidence. Second, setting boundaries. And third, giving me that peace to come back online and know that like things can be really different for me now and really changing my relationship with social media. A huge part in this, which I feel very lucky to have done, but I know is not a privilege for everybody, is that I was able to take time off of publicly promoting my business and doing any public marketing for my business. I'm primarily focused on any back end networking that I could do. So, literally, me going to people and saying, hey, I would love to work with you. Is there a spot for me on your team? Some other ideas that you could utilize are putting yourself out there via DMs, which I can definitely talk about that strategy a little bit more in future episodes, but actually approaching people and networking via conversations. If you are somebody who just like is starting from ground zero, another really great place to publicly promote what you're doing, especially if you're a service provider, is a place like Fiverr, Upwork. There's definitely some work that has to go into those, but it can work for you. And then also Facebook groups, like Facebook groups where there's job postings or job listings, going into places like that and seeking out work. I feel like that was really beneficial for me. And so I know for people out there who are like, but I sell courses, I do coaching. Some of these can work for you. I know I've picked up like my one-on-one client right now, basically like sent her a DM. It was just like, hey, I would love to work with you. Let's hop on a call. I just shot my shot with her. That's where DM strategy and sales can come in handy for you. But also, if you're somebody where you're just like, I'm so completely overwhelmed, I'm not getting business, starting with services or just shifting to services for a while is such a great thing, especially if you're so burned out on marketing yourself and using social media to get clients. It's a great thing to pick up consistent retainer clients or projects. One way that has been really helpful for me, especially starting my business, and then, a resource that I can always go back to if I'm looking for more work, is applying for jobs within Facebook groups, because there are so many, especially like virtual savvies, women helping women. Those are a couple that I've really leaned on in past years. There's lots of options out there for you to be able to run a business without you having to publicly promote. I think even if you're wanting to sell courses, shifting into using other platforms that can promote, or like affiliate marketing, is another really great way. I'm getting way into to the details here. I wanted to talk more on like the emotions and feelings behind it. But anyways, those are some like quick tips that I have there that I think are worth sharing. So for me personally, I have not spent a lot of time on social media for my business in the last year. I've done little spurts here and there, but I really haven't like done any consistent marketing over the last year, because I felt like I really had to rebuild my relationship with social media. And part of that also is my personal relationship with social media, especially Instagram and other platforms. And for the last I think I'm coming up on 6 months here in mid-December, I've been primarily off of social media for about like 6 months on a personal level as well. And that has changed a lot for me, just in the matter of how I'm sharing my life, how I'm sharing myself. I didn't realize how much of what I was dealing with my business and my insecurities there were just rooted in my own personal confidence and insecurities. The feeling that I needed to post my life online or share any parts of myself. I think I spent a lot of the last 4+ years almost exploiting myself online. And I'll say exploiting lightly, because I wanted to share it. I love sharing my life. But I think after what I went through a couple years ago personally, I had to really take a step back, because that like rocked me in a way that it's hard to explain. And I'm wondering if this podcast is even making sense, but hopefully if you have gone through something that has really rocked your confidence, I'm trying to find the right words for this, but maybe you can just relate to that cluster of feelings of wanting to be online, not wanting to be online, wanting to share, but not wanting to share, wanting to connect with other people, but not wanting to connect with people at the same time. It's such like an interesting experience. So I would say if you're somebody who you can't stop posting for your business, I would change how you're showing up on the personal level for parts of your own social media. I have like a personal account, or how you're showing up personally with your business. Maybe there's some boundaries there to make yourself feel a little bit more comfortable. I know that it was something that I was insecure about on so many levels, from like the way that I talked, and sounded, to the way my mouth moved, to the way that my face looked, to not wanting pictures of myself online and picking those apart, and even down to, does anybody care what I'm saying? Do I have pick me energy? I think that's what helped me realize, wow, my personal relationship with social media is so effed up right now. I need to really take a step back here, or else I don't know if I can do this online thing, because this isn't going to be sustainable. I can't spend this much time offline. I need to come back at some point. But I feel like I had to get to the root of what I was dealing with before I could push forward on anything, because a lot of me just wanted to push forward and show up and figure it out and not be so emotional about this. I used to just be fine. And then, coming to terms with, okay, I went through something really traumatic for myself, and it completely changed me as a person. And like I said, rocked my confidence, which I had never struggled with self-confidence really on this level or to this extent in the past. So doing this has really helped me. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this so early in the podcast, early in the life of the podcast, is because I think so many people do deal with this. And I hear this a lot from my clients or people that I work with, just a lot of fears of showing up online. And I think it really does come down to your personal relationship with social media, your relationship with yourself. And so while this episode might not fix your problems, I think it can bring a lot of awareness to the root cause issue of what you may be dealing with. And so it might not be a matter of just working harder, but it might be doing a deeper dive or changing your strategy. Like I said, I used to do a lot of public marketing for my business, and that worked for me. If you feel like you have to build your business one way, or you have to do your marketing one way, I want to remind you that there's a lot of different ways. And then also just to take care of yourself, make sure you're putting up the boundaries that you need to make sure that you feel your best, because running your business is a marathon and not a sprint. And I feel like I was sprinting for years when I started, and sprinting isn't always going to work, especially when life happens and things come up or circumstances change, or whatever it is you have going on. So don't be afraid to pivot, don't be afraid to change, don't feel like you have to do what other people are doing. And this is your permission that you don't have to spend so much time consuming on social media. I felt like I had to do that to keep up and to keep learning, but you can overconsume way too much. And I've realized over the years that simplicity is better. I used to do so much, and now I feel like I've really simplified what's on my plate. And I think part of that just comes with seniority in running a business and being around for a while. You learn those things as you go, but also I feel like I didn't completely understand what people were saying in the beginning. I needed it dumbed down a little bit. Maybe nothing changes from this, but there's a level of awareness that you have going forward. But don't be afraid to do what you need to do to take care of yourself. There's so many things that I feel like are rooted in your own fears and or maybe even insecurities, like fear of judgment, things like that, that will keep you from showing up 100% for your business. And so that's why I really wanted to dig into, your relationship with social media in this episode, because I feel like if you don't have a good relationship with social media and you're using it for your business, you will always struggle to stay consistent. You'll always struggle to show up at your maximum capacity or even show up at your best. And it doesn't always work just to push through. I always say you have to treat yourself like an athlete when you're running your business. So I definitely want to do a whole podcast episode on that eventually, but I feel like you just have to do what you need to do. Be a little bit cutthroat with yourself, be a little bit strict with yourself in like what you're allowing yourself to see, consume, interact with, what's allowed to interact with you. That's another big thing as well. So that's pretty much all I have for today's episode. And I hope that you feel enlightened after hearing this, whether you deal with your own personal issues with social media or not, whether you're struggling to show up consistently or just show up at all. Maybe this can help you feel either just a little bit less alone, or get the wheels turning for like, how can I make this work for me? Or even just be open to a different way of running your business. I think we all go through seasons in running our business, and we don't have to do the same thing over time. Like there's going to be seasons and ups and downs, and that's totally okay. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will talk to you in the next one.